see?
Yeah.
Great. Yes, so as Felicity's mentioned, you should have all received a template from me, and I thought this was a great way for you to actually physically start putting down some ideas and thoughts. We're not going to cover every element of the document. Obviously, we'll probably be here all day, but just something for you to take away and use kind of moving forward following the kind of presentation this morning. So as Felicity's mentioned, so I am a small marketing agent based in High Wycombe, working with charities, SMEs, helping them with everything from strategy planning right through to kind of implementation, so delivering your marketing activity for you. This is kind of one of 3 workshops actually that I'm running. I don't know if you've seen the other 2, but the next one we've got will be looking at building your online visibility through Google SEO. And the last one is looking at trends, so trends that are moving into 2021, what to look out for, which would be great to see you all there. So I wanted to start off with, so put your hands up if you've got a marketing strategy already in place. Okay, so not many of you, that's great. So what I wanted to do is just talk through a bit more about how to put together your strategy, covering all the kind of key elements, and then moving into planning and how you can plan to actually deliver your marketing campaigns. First, one of the most kind of important elements is finding your target demographic. We'll be looking at putting together kind of your organisation goals, which we'll use kind of the SMART tool for that, which is a great way to kind of map out your objectives and make sure that you're targeting the right people, the right organisations, and how you're going to deliver that. To ensure all parties are following the same guidelines, a strategy is a great way to ensure trustees, CEOs, other staff members are all following the same guidelines, and that's kind of branding guidelines and delivering the marketing activity in the same way across the board. Creating a unique and powerful value proposition, so looking at your kind of company values and how you can reiterate that into your marketing activity, particularly your content and your visuals. We're looking at the best tools and the resources that you've got that you can use, you know, particularly now with the social distancing, digital, a lot of organisations now are being a lot more digitally present. A lot more people are working from home, flexible working. So, you know, it's a perfect time now to kind of look at your strategy and ensure that you've got the right digital tools in place. To ensure growth as well, obviously really key that, you know, with your marketing strategy that you're ongoingly looking and reviewing, refining, particularly the digital trends that are coming up and the changes that are taking place, just making sure that you're planning for now and into the future, to making sure you're tapping into those straight away. And then financial planning, obviously looking at your marketing budgets and what your return on investment you expect to see, and making sure that you're achieving what you'd like and you're not spending, you're spending in the right way. So first of all, looking at identifying your target audience. So this is really, really key that you're creating an audience profile to ensure you're reaching your target market. And it's looking at kind of defining your audience to identify and understand your niche and making sure that you're kind of dominating it. There are a lot of aspects that come under that. A few that I've put down here, looking at kind of age range, you know, what type of personality do they have? You know, are they kind of creative? Are they fun? You know, are they quite serious? You know, how do they like to be spoken to? Location, obviously another key point when you are marketing your business, knowing where you are marketing in terms of your location. You know, are you just targeting people in the Buckinghamshire area, or are you targeting people on a national level, and ensuring that's kind of a key part of your marketing strategy to really kind of define who you're talking to. And the language, again, you know, looking at kind of your tone of voice and how you're speaking to your audience. And that again ties into kind of the personality side of things, making sure that the language you're using, people are able to understand, you know, you're not using any jargon, and making sure kind of you're clear and concise with your marketing messages. So we've got interests as well, you know, what are they interested in, you know, either in work or outside of work. Where are they most likely to hang out, you know, and really kind of tying down what their kind of interests are. And we've got challenges as well, which is a really important one, I think, to really kind of engage with your audience. So looking at what your target audience challenges are right now into the future, you know, and really kind of pinpointing kind of what they're going through at the moment and kind of utilizing that within your content and your marketing messages. It might be a particular industry, you know, if you're targeting other businesses, organizations, other groups, you know, what type of industry are they in, and which channels are they using. And we've got job title as well. Maybe if you're particularly using LinkedIn for your targeting, it might be that the job title is kind of key and important to you as part of your target audience. Again, I mentioned channels, really important. Again, you know, a lot of people think they should be on every single channel using every marketing resource, but that's actually not the case. It's all about really identifying where are your audience, what channels are they using, how do they like to be communicated to, you know, do they like to receive email marketing campaigns, do they like to be reached out to on Instagram, and it's really kind of looking at where they sit. And different content types, you know, how do they want to be spoken to? You know, are they more engaged in video? Do they like to kind of receive more kind of thought leadership pieces? So really identify what kind of content your audience might want to receive. And in the initial stages, it might be a lot of testing to really kind of pinpoint and key down and really know if, you know, particularly if you're a kind of a new charity or not-for-profit, it's all about testing to see what's going to work for you and how your audience like to be spoken to. So I just wanted to do a little exercise. So on your own, kind of using the template that I've sent to you. So you'll see that I started the template with kind of branding guidelines, and I've not really touched on this because I think this is probably a whole another kind of presentation, maybe not by me in itself, to really kind of look at your branding, but jumping into kind of your target market. I'd like you just to take a few minutes and just start thinking about who your target audience are, where they might sit, what their interests are, you know, what type of personality do they have. So we want to spend a few minutes doing that, and then we'll move on to the next slide.
So for those of you that didn't have the email in advance, myself and Felicity have resent the template. So hopefully you've all received that now by email.
Vicky, there's a question coming from Liz asking if you have lots of different audiences, do you need to do this activity for each separate one?
Yes, I would recommend that, because when you're kind of writing content for your audience, it's really got to relate to the end user. So if you do have different audiences, then I highly recommend, yes, doing them kind of separately, because you're going to be targeting them in different ways. So yeah.
Vicky, is it possible to put the slide up with the points about the target audience? Just Fran's asking for a bit of a memory jog on that one.
Sorry.
How's everyone doing? If you have got any questions, remember just to use the group chat, and we can either deal with them at the time, or we can save them up for a bit. So hope you're all getting on all right.
Yeah, we'll just have one more minute and then I think we'll carry on.
Just had a couple of people just join. We are having a moment's silence, which is a funny time to join.
Yeah.
We're currently looking at identifying your target audience. We've on the template that we sent out in advance, we're just looking at identifying our target audience. So if you want to fill those out, we've got about a minute left.
Sorry, I lost my internet connection. Would you be sending this out, the recording out at the end, in case it goes again?
Yes, yeah, well, yeah, we're recording it, and we've got a copy of the slides as well, so we can send them.
No, that's great. I was panicking. I was thinking, oh no, I don't want to miss it. Okay, lovely. Thank you.
That's all right.
Okay, so I think we'll probably move on to the next step. So some of you may or may not recognize this tool, but it's a great kind of tool for you to use to start to map out your objectives of what you would like to achieve from your marketing. And this is the kind of the SMART tool, and it's a really great way to really kind of define, you know, how you're going to measure your marketing campaign. You know, and you want to obviously achieve kind of and see measurable outcomes. So it can really kind of help to kind of steer your campaigns in the right direction. So we've got kind of the specific, you know, what do you want to do, you know, with your marketing activity, looking at kind of your you know, your goals. We'll look at this more in the kind of planning stage in terms of defining really the specifics, but for here it's what are your overall goals as a business, in terms of kind of what you'd like to see as your kind of outcome. You know, who's involved in this kind of marketing campaign that you're delivering. You know, what do you want to accomplish? Again, tapping into your goals again. What does kind of your end results look like? You know, where will it be done? You know, what kind of channels, you know, might you be using? What resources and tools do you need to put in place? And you know, why are you running these marketing campaigns? You know, what is kind of the whole point and the reasoning behind it? And any constraints, obviously, that you might have, which sometimes happens. You know, it might be lack of in-house resources. It might be, you know, technology. You know, the lack of technology available. So it's a great way to kind of really define kind of what you want to do and what you want to achieve from your marketing activity. Looking at kind of measurable. You know, how will you know when you've done it? How will you know that you've achieved what you wanted to achieve from your marketing activity? What can you do to put in place to track the progress and measure kind of the outcomes? And we'll look at kind of a few tools later on to kind of really help you to do that. And regularly, obviously, reviewing them, analysing and refining to make sure that you know, you're achieving what you want to, and the outcomes are there. You know, how much, how many, and how will you know when your goal is accomplished? You know, is there kind of are there deadlines for kind of how you want to measure? Are you going to measure monthly? Are you going to measure quarterly? And achievable. So can you accomplish it? You know, is it realistic? You know, is the goal reasonable enough to be accomplished? So when you're looking at the goals, I think always bear that in mind. I mean, you want to be challenged a little bit, but you've got to still be realistic in what those end goals look like. And how, obviously, will you accomplish it? And don't choose goals that are out of reach, obviously, or below standard. Obviously, challenge yourself a little bit, but it still needs to be achievable. So relevancy, is it worthwhile? Again, talked a little bit about not having to do every single kind of marketing activity or tap into every single social media channel. So it's all about being kind of relevant. Again, your target audience, kind of tying in all those kind of elements together when you're kind of looking at your goals, making sure you know, it meets the needs of your company, your organisation, and is each goal consistent with other goals that you have established before? So if you've got goals in place already, revert back to those. You know, push yourself maybe a little bit further, but going back to kind of the goals that you've had before will kind of really help you to make sure that kind of what your goals are now, they're kind of relevant, and again, relevant to your audience. And do they fit with your immediate and future plans? You know, as we're looking into 2021, as we're looking at kind of everything moving a lot more digital, you know, a lot's going to change. Again, so looking at kind of the future and what your marketing activity might look like. And timely, you know, when exactly do you want to accomplish it? I think this is really key. I think particularly if you're, if there are a few people working on your marketing campaigns, making sure that kind of everyone's clear about when the deadlines are, or you know, if you've got these goals in place, putting kind of strict timelines on when you're going to actually review the goals to see if you've achieved them. It will bring a sense of urgency, obviously great, and improve time management. Again, when you're working across the board with lots of people, making sure that everyone's consistent and delivering under the timelines that you set. Before we go into the little exercise, I just want to kind of talk through your USP, which I don't think a lot of organisations do, but I think it's kind of really key to kind of identify where you stand in your market, what makes you different. So it's looking at, you know, how do you compare against other similar organisations? You know, do you offer additional services that they don't? Do you target a different, maybe slightly different demographic, but you add, you know, maybe you add more value? It's really kind of looking at how you differ, and maybe putting that together. You know, maybe kind of a comparison table or something like that would be really useful. You know, what is your niche? You know, do you have a specialism? Or are you maybe tapping into a new trend that maybe another organisation are not yet tapping into? And really kind of pinpointing what your USP is, because this is really important, you know, particularly, you know, with your websites, with your social media channels and your profiles. This is what makes you stand out as an organisation. So once you've identified your USP, it's really important that you use these within your content, and they should be at the forefront of all your kind of content, your key messages, your, you know, your marketing messages. You know, any demographic distinctions. You know, are you providing your, you know, your services to a kind of a wider demographic? Do you target a particular age group? You know, is your organisation more gender specific? So again, really pinpointing those elements, tying them into kind of your target audience, and utilising this information within your content is really key. What's your track record? Again, another great way of showcasing your expertise, your skills, your specialisms. You know, do you have maybe a customer satisfaction survey that you can use to shout about? Could you get some kind of key data from that and use that within your marketing messages? You know, have you got feedback, endorsements, and really capitalising on those, because that really does show the kind of level and the skill, the expertise, you know, and the value that you bring to your organisation. You know, what is your vision? You know, are you offering something, or are you going to be offering something that no other organisation like yours is delivering right now, or, you know, is not going to deliver? And really capitalising on that and shouting about it. You know, is there kind of a trend that's happening right now that you're at the forefront of? And really thinking about moving forward and what your kind of vision is, to making sure that you're using your vision within your marketing messages, your content. So I think it'd be quite good for you all to kind of have a think about that and just spend a few minutes really thinking about what makes your organisation different, and pinpointing those key elements. And if you are aware of any, say, competitors as such, but other similar organisations, start to think about those, mapping those down into your document, and then when you kind of finish the workshop, go away and really kind of having a look at how you might be different. Okay, we'll just take one more minute and then we'll come back. Okay, I think we'll, sorry, excuse me, I think we'll carry on now. So what I'd like to do is, moving on from kind of a USP, I'd really like to look at kind of what your unique proposition is. You know, what makes kind of a strong value proposition. So, you know, it's clearly defining the benefits basically that a user will get from engaging in your charity, and kind of really highlighting those. You know, why should someone engage in your charity over kind of another organisation? You know, why should someone donate to your charity over another charity? And you know, it's all about kind of your website. You know, it can have a huge kind of impact on whether visitors kind of take action. So it's great if you can kind of highlight what your kind of values are within your content. You know, it must be clearly describe the benefits for taking an action. You know, why should somebody either download a document, attend an event? You know, what are the benefits to them in doing that? You know, just saying, "Oh, download our newsletter." You know, you can kind of encourage them to download a bit more, maybe talking about what value they'll get from downloading a newsletter. So really kind of thinking about what action you've got maybe on your website or in your marketing content, and describing the benefits of why they should take that action. Having kind of a unique value proposition also helps to answer any questions a user might have and calm any fears. And I think this is a good way when we looked back at what your audience challenges might be. Again, thinking about that, thinking about kind of what their fears might be, and when you're looking at kind of your content or your messaging, making sure that you're supporting that and you're taking away that challenge and that fear, and you're making them feel like it's okay to take that action, and again, going back to kind of the benefits of doing that. You know, is it concise and avoid using jargon that people might not understand? Again, really important when you're looking at kind of your messages. And I want to kind of look at this in two areas really. You might want to write this down on your document. So from a kind of a user's perspective, think about what their wants are, think about what their needs are, and what their fears are. So 3 elements under kind of the user category. You know, think about what your audience want, what they need, and what their fears are. You know, their wants might be, you know, what do users want to do? What do they want to do when they open a newsletter? What do they want to do when they land on your website? You know, what do they want from that engagement? And again, what their needs are. You know, what do users need to complete their goal of what they want to get out of engaging with your charity or not-for-profit? And fears, again, why might they not want to engage? And are you helping them to kind of overcome that fear when they engage with your charity? And then on the other side of it, looking at it from a kind of an organisation point of view. So think about the benefits of why they should interact with your charity. Looking at 3 things. So looking at the benefits, looking at what experience they might be getting from when they engage, and the services. So how you work and what you have to offer. So 3 key important elements from an organisation perspective to really think about with your marketing messages. You know, once you have this information kind of from running through this process, you know, it can really help to make the messaging on your website and your other marketing channels a lot cleaner, because you're really pinpointing those key elements when you're speaking to your audience. So another tool that some of you might recognise is the SWOT analysis. Again, from a marketing perspective, can be really, really useful. So looking at what your strengths are, what your weaknesses might be, what opportunities you have, and any threats, obviously, that might come your way. And again, I put kind of some, not really examples, but explanations of how you can kind of fill this in. So again, something for you to kind of go away and kind of have a look at, and kind of really kind of pinpoint, you know, these key elements. You know, it helps you to understand, you know, the internal factors, obviously your strengths and weaknesses, as well as your external factors. So, you know, what your opportunities are and what the kind of external threats might be that might prevent you from achieving the goals that you set. You know, and it can make and break, you know, the success of your marketing goals, these kind of key elements. So I think being aware of them will really kind of help you and prepare for kind of how your marketing activity is going to perform. You know, and it helps you to examine your organisation from kind of a promotional and a marketing perspective. You know, it gives a well-rounded view of where you stand, you know, in relation to your customers, you know, whether they're donors, beneficiaries, supporters, volunteers, you know, whatever they, you know, they might be. It just kind of enables you to get kind of a holistic view of these kind of key elements. So yeah, so I suggest kind of going away after this workshop and kind of really having a look at those. And if, you know, you've got any questions now, you know, feel free to kind of put them into the chat. So before we move on to the marketing plan, does anyone have any questions so far? We will do some questions at the end, but is there anything kind of immediate?
Liz has come back at sort of a variation on her previous question about identifying lots of target audiences, and do you have to have a USP for each of those different audiences that you've identified?
Yes, I think it depends on how different your audiences are. You know, are there some similarities, or are they actually completely different? You know, if they are completely different, then, you know, it's worth looking at, you know, should your marketing activity be your strategy be 2 different marketing strategies? So again, I'm happy to kind of talk after this session, because I think there'll be a few factors involved in that, to kind of how different these elements will be. So yeah, I'm happy to have a chat afterwards about that, and probably need a bit more kind of information to answer that question.
We're getting a thumbs up from Liz, so thanks for that.
Great. Okay. Okay, so why have a marketing plan? It's a great way to kind of define, you know, what you want to achieve, and, you know, and what does kind of success kind of look like, you know, and it's a great way, you know, we've looked at kind of your overall goals on a kind of a broad scale, but actually kind of really defining those goals into the specifics, you know, for maybe each channel or each activity or each campaign. So it's breaking out the key areas that you're concentrating on. You know, it might be a project that you're working on, and really defining what you'd like to achieve from that campaign or project, or whatever it kind of might be. You know, it's a great way to explain the strategies and, you know, and the initiatives you're going to use to reach your goals. Again, what maybe resources you need to put in place, what tools you need to put in place. You know, competitor analysis, again, looking at what other organisations are maybe doing. You know, if you are going to run a kind of a new campaign or run a series of events or whatever it might be, looking at how other people, other organisations have run those types of campaigns and getting some ideas. You know, it doesn't need to be a complete replica, but sometimes it's really great just to kind of help you to kind of brainstorm and look at the kind of the specifics of that area. Again, we've gone through kind of the SWOT analysis, but again, looking at that for kind of each of the projects or campaigns that you're working on, or as from your company as a whole, and making sure that you're following those guidelines. And another key area, measuring your performance. It's really, really important that, you know, if you've spent 2 or 3 months delivering lots of different marketing campaigns or different channels, really looking at how that has performed, and we'll come on to some of the tools and ways that you can do to analyze the data and make kind of better decisions moving forward. I talked about kind of, you know, long-term vision before. We are going to, with the workshop in December, look at 2021 trends. So again, if that's an area you're really kind of key at looking at, highly kind of recommend coming along, because we'll be looking at lots of digital channels and different ways of communicating and engaging. You know, there's lots of things, you know, like chatbots and kind of video that are doing great things at the moment. So looking at kind of your long-term vision, tapping into trends, but also tapping into your kind of business goals, organisation goals as well. You know, where do you see your charity, you know, in 5 years' time, and what marketing activity do we need to do in that time to kind of achieve our, you know, our goals based on our vision for the charity. So your mission statement. So as a charity or not-for-profit, you probably already have maybe a mission statement that you're using, but it's always great to look at this and using this as part of your you know, your marketing campaign delivery. You know, what is the one thing that your whole charity, you know, is working towards? You know, specific, what makes you different? Again, we've looked at doing a competitor analysis. We've looked at your unique value proposition. You know, are these elements that you've looked at before that you can kind of pull into your mission statement? They probably are. They're probably a great place to start. And keeping it short. There's nothing wrong with having 3 different mission statements to use, depending on kind of what you're working on or what your marketing plans are. But keeping it short, memorable and useful is going to be really, really good for you. And ambitious, you know, it should be exciting, it should be long term, you know, and it should be hard to achieve. And, you know, and it should be relatable. It should be bringing in people into your organisation that really engages them and attracts their attention and makes them want to find out more about your charity organisation, you know, about what you're doing, what you're working on. You know, and it's, you know, it is the reason your charity exists. So it should represent represent your charity. You can have one overarching mission statement, then you can also have smaller individual missions that obviously again that tie in to what you're working towards, that you can use in different areas of your marketing content. So again, have a think, looking back, if you have completed, looking at your USP, looking at, your unique, and looking at your unique value proposition, what your values are, what makes you different, and maybe have a think about how you can pull maybe some of those key elements in to one overall mission statement, but also looking at maybe 2 or 3 other smaller ones that might fit into kind of maybe some big campaigns that you're working on. That, if you are putting together a marketing plan for maybe one specific campaign, that you have a little kind of mission statement for that. If you're driving that forward as a big project, then it's a great way to kind of start thinking about that. So maybe just take a few minutes to have a think about what your mission statements might be. we'll just have another minute and then we'll move on. Okay, I think we'll move on from there into looking at your key messages. Again, I've talked about this a lot throughout the presentation, and I think this is kind of really important. I know some of you have mentioned speaking to different audiences. Again, so looking at kind of what your you know, your key messages are, you know, it's a great way to kind of control communications and really kind of enhances relationships. You know, ideally they should be kind of used as guidelines, so they can naturally be included within your kind of conversations that you're having online. You know, but mainly kind of they shape what you want people to think and what you want people to do. So sometimes it's not about kind of what you say, but it's how your audience perceives you. We've talked kind of a little bit about using, you know, looking at your kind of the personality of your audience, and I think this ties in really well into your kind of key messages. Again, just making sure that you've got with your messaging the right personality, and it allows your audience to then obviously engage with your messaging. You know, again, developing key messages for each of your audience really kind of informs your team and your marketing, and to make sure you are targeting the right groups. Again, if you're looking at different audiences, you're going to have different key messages for each audience. So definitely a great way to kind of map those out and to kind of be clear about how you're talking to your audience. You know, adapting kind of a different language maybe for your different audiences. You know, with flexible language, you know, how you're providing, you know, if you're providing a depth of information, you know, how is that coming across? How is that being kind of perceived by each audience? Looking at some of the actions, you know, to achieve the outcome. You know, do you want your audience to action something within your messaging? Obviously, again, being clear about what that is within your messages. And understanding your, you know, your target audience is kind of, again, really important when we've looked before at their kind of needs, their wants, their fears. You know, making sure that your messages are kind of meeting those. And reviewing your company goals. So, you know, do your key messages support your goals and really help you to achieve them? Again, we've looked at your unique value proposition. So are your messages representing your values? You know, do they sit nicely with them? Research your competitors' messaging. You know, again, not to replicate but also just to get some ideas. You know, are they writing, you know, do you really like their social media posts with what they're saying, how they're saying it? It's just to kind of help you to get some ideas around how you can make your, you know, yourself stand out when you're speaking to your audience. And brainstorm keywords associated with your brand. Again, keywords are not only for SEO, you know, they're important when it comes to marketing, that you should be using them so your audience recognize your brand and offering. Again, if you're looking at kind of branding, or you've completed your branding exercise, then looking at those kind of particular keywords that you can use to be consistent, to be memorable, and to make your organization stand out. And again, testing. You know, if your key messages is not something you've looked at before, it might just be the matter of testing different variations of messages to see which messages are engaging more than others. So kind of, you know, come up with some different key messages and have a play with them. Again, we'll look at reviewing your performance of your content and things later on, so you can get an idea of how you can test. So we've looked in the strategy at your kind of overall organization goals when it comes to your marketing, but it's always really good to set goals if you're working on particular campaigns or projects, or you know, or whatever it might be, to really look at, you know, the channels that you're using, and set specific goals. You know, if you're maybe you've just started out on using social media, you know, you haven't got a really good following, but you really want to get your brand and the charity name out there, then it might be that building your follower growth is one of your kind of set specific marketing goals. It might be, you know, we want to improve our kind of Instagram followers by 50% over the next quarter, or something like that. But then it might be more specific about hitting a fundraising target, increasing donations. But then when you're setting these goals, which we'll look at in a moment, it's about how you're going to achieve them. So start to think about what those specifics might be. Again, looking back when we looked at your kind of overall goals in the strategy, and making sure that kind of you're tying these specific goals into kind of overall goals, to making sure that, you know, you're achieving these specifics. You know, increasing traffic by a certain percentage on your website. Again, when we're looking at kind of content before, it's always great to play around with content on your website when we've looked at your values and your USP, what makes you different. Maybe changing some content on your website might support some of your goals. If you're wanting kind of your inquiries to your website to go up, so have a kind of a think about that in terms of your kind of your specific goals, and then setting them out. Really kind of important. So everyone was also, if you've got a team of marketing staff members, making sure they're all kind of on the same goal, looking at the same goal, and knowing kind of what you want to achieve, how you're going to achieve it, and what the outcomes might be. And then again, you can come back to this after, you know, a few weeks, or whenever your timeline is, to see how you're achieving your action points. So again, I've got a few kind of examples up here just to give you a bit of an idea. These are just some that I've kind of put together. You know, one of them at the bottom, you know, an objective. You know, you're running a Christmas campaign, which, you know, the Clare Foundation are getting involved in a few campaigns over the Christmas period to support those in need. So really kind of having a think about what you know, what's current, you know, what campaigns are you currently working on. You know, your target market, how are you going to reach your target market? So I put here, you know, a goal about placing ads in the media covering Chesham, targeting the older population. So then I've had to think about, well, the older population are more likely not going to be digitally savvy. So let's tap into kind of placing ads in local kind of media outlets. You know, it might be radio, it might be print. So really kind of having a think about where your audience sit, what channels they're using, putting together kind of overall objectives and specific goals about how you're going to achieve them. So I have touched on this a bit previously about putting together a kind of a competitor analysis. Again, when we've looked at our unique selling points, obviously this kind of ties in a little bit, but having this as kind of a separate project for you to look at, it's going to be really good for you to kind of just see how, you know, how other organizations are performing. You know, where are they, you know, ranking in search engine results? You know, are they up there in terms of the services that they're offering? You know, what's their social media presence like? Have a look at their channels, their content, see what's attracting the most engagement. Again, we've talked about kind of testing, but if you can use your competitors to that advantage of seeing what's working for them and what's not. You know, what types of content, you know, are they seeing more engagement through video? Are they kind of talking, you know, in terms of their personality that they're using, are they being really fun and quirky, and is that working for them? Could that potentially work for you? You know, looking at, you know, their digital journey and their engagement. So what happens when they land on their website and they sign up to find out more about fundraising opportunities? What's the journey that person goes through from sending an inquiry? Do they get an email straight away to say, thank you for, you know, for engaging in our organization, you know, whatever that kind of content might be? And then do you follow up then with a newsletter? Do you then engage with them on social? So really kind of thinking about, you know, what your competitors are doing to engage with your audience, and how can you kind of tap into that and maybe even do it better. You know, it's that research is kind of really key to kind of really help you to get some ideas. You know, how are they capturing data? Do they have downloadable forms on their website where they're capturing data to then use to then market to them moving forward? You know, are they running online events? How successful are these online events? So again, look at their strengths, look at their weaknesses, and try and, you know, get some ideas to help you brainstorm, to help you kind of moving forward and to kind of pinpoint what you could and shouldn't be doing. So I mentioned, you know, every business organization, every charity, every not-for-profit, you do not need to be using every single channel. It's all about looking at what's relevant and what's right for you. And when you look at kind of your goals and your objectives, that will really help you to highlight which channels you should be using, and also how you're using them. And for me, I reiterate this quite a lot to my clients. You know, it's all about taking people on a journey. It's about telling a story, capturing their attention, engaging, and then it's keeping them engaged. So what does your journey look like for your potential customer, whoever that might be? And again, we talked about, so when we look at kind of the channels, you know, how are you going to communicate your message? How can you best reach your audience? Think about where you can best promote. When you look at your key messages, how can you best promote that in your values? You know, make sure when you look at your kind of imagery as well in your graphics, you know, are they on brand? Are they engaging? You know, we look at kind of video and you know, live video now is obviously really, really popular. but it might not be for your audience. So it's all about pinpointing the channels that you should be using where your audience sit. You know, it might be, you know, if you're targeting kind of the older population, that, you know, a direct mail campaign followed by an ad in a kind of a local magazine and then an appearance on the radio, that might be for more of the older audience. The younger audience, you know, it might be, sorry, I've not got this up. It might be, you know, you're tapping into obviously social media, looking at Instagram, you know, you might be looking at kind of YouTube. You know, it all depends on your target market to which channels, again, are right for you. And a strong call to action. You know, I see kind of social media posts going out, you know, I see kind of adverts in magazines, but there's no call to action. What do you want people to action by seeing, you know, your kind of your messaging and your communication? If you know, if you're sending out a newsletter and you've got you know, a couple of articles and then an announcement of a new campaign or fundraising opportunities, what do they do from that newsletter? Where are you taking them? You know, you should be probably taking them to a landing page on your website or to a sign up form. So really kind of, when you're looking at your channels, think about how you can really use them effectively to help you really to kind of achieve your goals. And I think we're just going to do a breakout room now, I think, Felicity, aren't we? Where I thought it'd be quite nice if you all kind of went on to kind of small groups and maybe had a little discussion about what channels you're using, what might be working for you, and kind of just bounce off some ideas from each other.
Yeah, so I'm just going to pop you all into some break.
Spend 5 minutes. I think that would be great.
5 minutes, okay.
Our target audience is different age groups, so I would say the more serious and older age group is Twitter.
How people are engaging. And then public speaking, again, predominantly probably online now at the moment, but just an example, you know, how many referrals are you getting following a speaking event? And your content marketing, again, if they're kind of downloadable full forms online, whatever it might be, you know, how many subscriptions are you getting, you know, how many people are signing up to kind of donate on your website, and looking at kind of your numbers there. Again, so measuring your performance. So there are lots of tools out there, but I've given you the ones that I use that are pretty much all of them are free. And there, an easier and kind of an informed way of reporting, which I thought you'd all appreciate. So Hootsuite, again, if you've not heard of it, it's a social media schedule tool. It's a great way for you to share with teams, with other people, what you're posting out, so other people can come on and post as well, and you can all have a visual view of what's going out. So scheduling, you can schedule for the week, you can schedule for the month. I had someone the other day who said they scheduled for the next 3 years, whatever floats your boat, whatever you're capable of. So again, have a look at Hootsuite. You can have 3 channels on there for free. Any more than that, you can have unlimited, and I think it's something like £15 a month. But Hootsuite, again, it's a great way to post across all your channels in one hit, and also schedule, but also reporting. So you can get a full view in an A4 PDF of how your social media activity is performing. And that's everything from followers to engagement, so from likes to comments. So have a look at that if that's something that you've not come across before. It's really good as well if you're working in a team. And you've got your individual social media channel insights. Again, these are getting a more holistic and detailed overview of your data. So every channel will have their own insights: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. So go on, have a look at your insights, analytics. Again, get a good feel for how your posts are performing, how your following growth is performing. Are you meeting all of your goals? More importantly, so always have a look, maybe every month, and pull off the reports and tie that into your strategy and your plan. Google Analytics is a great tool to look at website traffic, a great tool to use if you're advertising online to see how it's performing. I won't go into the technical details of that, but a marketing or a web developer can help you set that up and help you to show you how you can visually look at your analytics. And then your email marketing platform, again, if you're using MailChimp or Zoho, whichever channel your software you're using, you can go back and look at your engagement rates. Sorry, I'm conscious of time. Just to finish off, these are tools that I've come across, maybe, offering discounts, free for charities, not-for-profits, lots of opportunities here to tap into different marketing channels and make the most of their offers that they have. Upcoming forums, again, if you'd like to hear me again talk about building your search engine visibility, if Google is the platform for you, join me in a couple of weeks. And then we've got digital marketing trends, looking at next year, what's trending, what you need to look out for. Again, ties in really well. Both of these elements tie in really well with your marketing strategy and plans. Thank you very much. Sorry, I had to quickly finish. I didn't want anyone to miss out.
Oh, thanks so much, Vicky. That was amazing. There was so much content in that.
I'm sorry if I've overloaded everybody. It's really tricky to try and really get everything across.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I mean, you know, if I can very quickly recap, you know, there was so much content. There was, you know, we really needed to think about our audience and how they wanted to be spoken to. And the objectives and how to map your objectives. These are just sort of the notes that I've been writing about. But you know, what we'll do is if we send out a copy of the slides by PDF. I know I'm very mindful that we're at the end of the session. We've run over slightly. If you do have any questions that you want to put in the chat, are you okay to hold on for a few minutes, Vicky, to answer any specific questions?
Yeah. Left as much time for questions as I wanted.
No, that's okay.
Chat with people after the session if they wanted to get in touch with me. I've put my details up here.
Yeah, and I think Laura was also looking at the point that came up about multiple audiences and USPs for those. So so there was definitely some interest there, and I know from ours there was talk about LinkedIn and Instagram, and so everyone was sort of drilling down right into the detail. But I've had lots of lovely thanks coming in So yeah, I know everyone's got things to do, but if you do have any questions and you want to hold on, thank you very much to everyone for attending. I hope that you can make the next two. There's not that many spaces left, so if you do want to come, then make sure you get booked up in the next few days. But thank you very much, Vicky. Thank you for your time.
That's all right. So we want to go to the chat room and look at the questions, and if people are happy to hang around.
Yeah, definitely. So where were we? So there's lots of thanks coming in. I've got to scroll back up. From another point about Instagram and LinkedIn and how to maximize their potential. Social media and savviness is something that came up that people are asking, because being such a small charity and no comms or marketing teams, there's lots of different hats being worn. So really, help on those sorts of things. I get lots of thanks. There's no specific questions coming in. Does anyone want to raise their hand and ask a question?
If anyone in the room still has any questions, or again, happy to talk after the session. No,
brilliant. Well, thank you guys. Thank you all very much for coming along. I hope you found it useful. We'll circulate the information to you, but hopefully we'll see you in a couple of weeks on the next course.
Right, sorry.
guys, thank you.
Oh, hang on. Sorry, yeah, Laura.
If Vicky has just got a minute, that would be all right to chat. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
I
don't know what I've done to my screen. I can't see it. I can't see. Yeah, it was just we're a really small charity. It was just about the different audiences we've got. Like, yeah, I don't really know what to ask about it. I think we've got a similar problem in that we're a small charity and we have to wear lots of different hats, and then we've also got a really varying target audience. And I just was like, just difficult to know what to prioritise first, I guess. But I don't know.
What organisation are you from?
So we're a charity called Caris, and we support women in the sex industry and anyone who's people who've experienced sex exploitation. But obviously we're targeting supporters to kind of get support, but we've got to do that in a really careful way, because obviously our women will also see our posts, and then we've got to be really careful about how we do that. So it's just quite complicated. So I don't know if you can hear.
Your language and your messages have got to be really careful, with how you're coming across and how you're being perceived. And I guess kind of the graphics and the visuals around that as well is going to be quite challenging to have.
Yeah, massively. Yes, I don't know if you can answer that in 5 minutes. The challenge.
So just pinpoint your target audience. So have you got how many different audiences have you got? I guess it's the profile of what they look like.
Yeah. Well, I guess in terms of supporters, again, they're quite varying, because we've got our kind of older supporters who